Good morning. Great to see everybody out this morning to worship God and to encourage one another as we worship God. And we never want to dismiss that fact. You being here makes all the difference in the world when it comes to assembling ourselves together. And what we try to do is encourage one another to get better. About a month ago, it was on November the 5th, I believe it was, the first Sunday in November, we issued the Proverbs Challenge. The Proverbs Challenge is, for those of you who didn't get this handout, there's some out there on the back on the table, and we challenge you to read one chapter in Proverbs every day. And there's 31 chapters in Proverbs, and more or less 31 days in a month. And you read one chapter, and then you pick one verse out of that chapter that moves you, that you say, I need to work on that. That's something that I need. And you make a comment out to the side about that. A lot of people have come to me and they say, oh, there's too much. There's so many Proverbs in that one chapter. But you're challenged to take your verse. That's what it says up there in that very top part of that column. Pick your verse. What is it that I really need to work on? And then make that comment, what I learned or what I will do. And at the end of the month, you'll be a better person. And many of you have taken that challenge. I appreciate you doing that. I've only got 2 chapters left to go, and I'll have finished my challenge and all the things that I wanted to work on. And I hope that it has been encouraging. Now, we gave lessons throughout the month that complements your study and your reading of the Proverbs. The first week we talked about wisdom, and of course you can't talk about Solomon and his Proverbs without discussing wisdom. The second Sunday we talked about words, how important our words are, and how we say things, what we say. And then we talked about wealth, what we to do with money, how do we to handle our resources in life. We're talking about wealth and our attitude toward it. We took a break last week because the Liberty Land classes were studying a particular subject, and we addressed that subject to complement their work. Let's look at another lesson from Proverbs. And the word we're going to be looking at today is work. Work. Now I wanted to put this slide back in. What is a proverb? It's a short, wise saying that effectively expresses a truth or a useful thought. That's what a proverb is. And there's proverbs throughout all of the world, from all cultures, the Chinese proverbs, the German proverbs, the Polish proverbs. But these proverbs are inspired by God. This is what God told Solomon to share with us. So when we're reading these proverbs, these short, wise sayings that effectively expresses a truth or a useful thought, this is from God's heart. This is from God's mind. So using these proverbs, we want to develop the idea of work. When we work, we provoke discipline. We discipline ourselves to build a positive character. Now I put this picture of a fella that's plowing behind a mule, and to me that's just hard work. I don't know if you've ever done that. I haven't done it, but just to look at it, that's got to be hard work. But work comes in all shapes, forms, and sizes. Somebody said, well, I plowed with a mule. I worked harder than anybody. Well, you did work hard, but I'm not going to say you worked harder than anybody. Somebody that's running a corporation that has multi-million dollars flowing through it, that there's people that they've got to manage. I would dare say, even though they've never plowed a field, they probably work pretty hard indeed. So whatever your work is, whatever God has called you and put you on planet Earth to do, and what you put your hand to do, that is work. And all types of work, all types of labor that's honest, you have to discipline yourself. And it promotes a positive character if you do it properly. And Solomon had so much to say about work. Jimmy just read the announcements and gave them this just a few minutes ago, and he talked about a lot of work that liberty is involved in. Just one right after the other. He said there's a sign-up sheet for that, there's a sign-up sheet for that, there's a sign-up sheet for that. And there's so much work that can be done. And if we take advantage of work, if we understand what work can build for us, then we can make a difference in our lives, we can make a difference in the lives of others, and we can be the kind of person that God would want us to be. The kind of character that God would want us to be. In fact, the first character that God would want us to be that I'd like to address about work is that word discipline. Here's what Proverbs 25, verse number 28 says about discipline. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. If I do not discipline myself and rule my own spirit and my own thoughts and my own actions, then I'm like a city with no defense system. The devil can attack me in any direction and I'll fall. The folks out there in this world that attack me with their tongue or that attack me with some kind of character assassination, whatever it is, I'll fall because I have no rule over my own spirit. I will say things. I will do things. I will deal with lack of wisdom and I'll use the wrong words and I won't approach my wealth properly. I'm a city with no defense system if I don't have discipline over my own spirit. He goes on to say in Proverbs 25, verse 16, hast thou found honey? Have you found some honey in a tree? Yes, I have. Well, eat so much as is sufficient for thee. Just eat what you need, lest you be filled therewith and vomit it. Now, Solomon uses words and phrases and ideas that are not so pretty, but they get the point across. They're a short, wise saying that effectively expresses a great truth or a useful thought. In other words, if you've got something, discipline yourself and use just what you need. Otherwise, if you use more honey than you need, you're going to puke. Can I say puke? Vomit is better, right? No, neither one of them don't sound good. But that's the point. Discipline ourselves. He goes on to say about preparation. People who have a good work ethic not only discipline themselves, but they prepare in their operations of life. Proverbs 24, verse number 27. Prepare your work. Plan your work. Think about your work. Plan your work without or outside and make it fit for thyself in the field. And then afterwards, build your house. You know, do your inside work, sure. Build your house, you got to do that. But plan your outside work. Do your outside stuff first, then move to your inside stuff. Here's the point. Plan your work. Prepare your work. That's what disciplined people who work do. And they take advantage of their opportunities. People who work, people who have a good work ethic, Solomon says they take advantage of their opportunities that come their way. Remember the virtuous woman in Proverbs chapter number 31? Verse 15 and 16 says this about her. She riseth also while it is yet night. Gets up early in the morning when it's still dark. What does she do? She gives food or meat to her household. She feeds her family. And a portion to her maidens. She takes care of the people that work for her. She's a worker. But here's what she does. She takes advantage of her opportunities. She considers a field. She buys that field. And with the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard. She takes advantage. She's a good worker. And she takes care of folks in her life. But she takes advantage of the opportunities afforded to her. That's people that's got a good work ethic. But what about the character? Solomon says so much more about the character of those that don't have a good work ethic. The character of those who won't work. Here's what Solomon says about folks like that. And we don't want to be folks like that. Sometimes when I'm planning a lesson, I'm thinking in my mind about the folks and myself and you guys and how's this lesson going to help? And I'm thinking, you guys are workers. you guys don't need to hear all of this stuff. But then I rethink that. I need to hear it. It's the Word of God. It's short, wise sayings, Proverbs from God Almighty. And I need to keep reminding myself, lest I become a person who won't work. I don't want that kind of character. Here's those people's kind of character. Now, I'm not going to tell you who I was thinking of when I picked that picture. But those folks are lazy. Solomon used the word slothful, sluggard, different other words, but he's talking about lazy folks. That's the character of people who won't work. Here's what he says about that in Proverbs 6, 4 through 8. Carter just read that. He says, give not sleep to your eyes. He's not saying don't ever sleep. What he's saying, don't love it. Don't sleep to the point that that's all you want to do is sleep all the time. He says, don't give slumber to your eyelids. Deliver yourself as a roe from the hand of a hunter. A roe is a deer. You need to run from Daniel. Daniel, get away from Daniel. Because Daniel going to kill you. If you're a deer and he's a hunter, he's going to kill you. And so what you're going to do is get away from the habit of sleeping. Sleeping all the time. It's all I want to do. Oh, I don't want to get up. I want to sleep my whole day away. He said, deliver yourself as a deer at the hand of a hunter, because it'll kill you. He says, get out of your as a bird at the hand of the fowler. A fowler is the person who hunts birds, captures birds. If you are given to sleep, and that's all you want to do is slumber and sleep around, let me tell you, it's going to kill you. It's going to ruin your life. He says, go to the ant. Go to the ant, you sluggard, you lazy person. Consider her ways and be wise. Ants are known for their hard work. These ants have no guide. They have no overseer. They have no ruler. Of course, we know about the queen ant and all of that. But what he's saying is, you don't see a bunch of bosses talking to the ants saying, now ants, go work. No, they just do it. You don't need anybody telling you to get out of bed. You don't need anybody telling you that you got to do this or got to do that. And when you have something to do, you don't need anybody whipping you on the back and forcing you and pushing you into your work. Be like the ant. They just do it. They go to work. They provide for their meat in the summer. They gather for their food in the harvest. They plan ahead and they work. They have a good work ethic. So we can learn a lot about the ant. He says in continuing that verse, verses 9, he says, how long will you sleep? How long are you going to be lazy? He said, oh, sluggard, that's a lazy person. When will you arise out of your sleep? When are you going to get out of bed? When are you going to go do something? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, laying back and got your hands folded to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. You're going to run into a lot of trouble in life if you're lazy. Don't be lazy. Proverbs 20, verse number 13, he says, love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. You'll ruin your life if you're lazy. Now we're going to talk tonight a little bit about rest. That's the subject of the lesson tonight, rest. And we're going to kind of balance these two. So come back tonight at 6 o'clock and listen to that lesson. But he says, open your eyes, wake up, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. You'll have plenty. You'll accomplish things in life if you wake up and go to work. Proverbs chapter 10, verse number 5. He that gathers in the summer is a wise son, just like an ant that gathers in the summer, getting ready for the winter. No, very wise person indeed. But, on the other hand, he that sleeps during the harvest. Harvest is out there. The harvest is plentiful, but you're asleep. Now, you may not be physically asleep, but you're not working. You're involved in other activities that you would rather be involved in. You're too lazy to go out there to the harvest. Let me tell you, you're a son that causes shame. It's shameful to be a person who has got something to do out there. There's a job out there that got to be done, and it's your job. It's not somebody else. Maybe you're not plowing a field with a mule. Maybe you're not running a corporation with hundreds of employees and millions of dollars. But whatever it is that God has put in your hand to do, there's a harvest out there to do it. And if we're not doing it, God said, that's a shame. God is ashamed of us if we're not doing it when we're supposed to be doing it. Chapter 10, verse 26 says, as vinegar is to the teeth. It's irritating to the teeth. I understand vinegar will rot your teeth. He says, and as smoke to the eyes. Smoke, it just irritates your eyes. You're around smoke and you can't hardly stand it. Well, that's the way a sluggard is to them that send them. If you put a sluggard out there to work and he won't work, a lazy person won't work, you irritate. You irritate folks. It's an irritation to other folks if I'm lazy. Proverbs 12, verse number 27, the slothful man, the lazy man. Listen to this. He roasteth not that which he took in hunting. He went out and he enjoyed hunting. He enjoyed killing the deer. That was a fun thing. But he won't even cook it. He's too lazy to put it to practical use. He don't appreciate what he went out and did. He says, but the substance, the stuff of a diligent man, a person who's not lazy, what is that? It's precious to him. Here's the idea. If I go out and gain something, but yet I'm lazy, I don't appreciate it. I don't use it. I don't say thank you, God, for this. Now, a person who's a worker, he goes out there and he gains something with his labor and he takes it in. He appreciates it. It's precious to him and he thanks God for it. But a lazy person don't appreciate anything that they have, any resources that God gives. In fact, verse number 9 of chapter 18 says, he also that is a lazy person in his work, he's a brother to him that is a great waster. The word waster is also translated in other translations than the King James Version, which is what I'm using, destroyer. A lazy person will ruin stuff. A lazy person will waste stuff, will destroy stuff. They go out and they get something, they bring it in, and they're so lazy, they don't appreciate it, and they'll ruin it. And they'll throw it away. It's garbage to them. But a person who works appreciates things. That's the character of a person who won't work. Proverbs 15 verse 19 says, the way of a lazy man is as a hedge of thorns. Your path in life, you got obstacles. A hedge of thorns is a fence of thorns that you can't get around. You've got your path, your way. There's a bunch of thorns in the way. Lots of obstacles in the way. If I'm a lazy person, and I don't go out and do the work that God set before me, let me tell you what's going to happen to me. I'm going to have obstacle after obstacle after obstacle in my life. But, on the contrary, the way of a righteous man is made plain. In other words, his road of life is easier. His road of life is clearer because he knows what he's got to do. He goes out and he does it, and obstacles tend to fall away. That's the wisdom of Solomon. Proverbs 19, verse number 24 says, a lazy person, let me tell you what that lazy person does. They hide their hand in their bosom. One translation says that the word bosom is armpit. They put their hands in their armpits. They cross their arms like this. And let me tell you about them. They will not so much as bring it to their mouth again. They're so lazy, they won't even put anything in their mouth. They just keep their arms crossed all the time. They're lazy. But here's another characteristic of someone who won't work. Not only are they prone to be lazy, they're prone to be idle. An idle mind. I started at class, an idle mind is what? The devil's workshop. Somebody said an idle hands are the devil's workshop. Same thing. It's the devil's workshop. There he is whispering into your ear. A person who won't work, he doesn't have engaged in activity. He's not doing what God put him to do. Not only is he lazy, he tends to be idle. He doesn't do anything. He just sits around. And he doesn't engage with anything or anyone. And that is a person who is wide open to the influences of Satan. Proverbs 14, verse 4 says, where no oxen are, the crib is clean. The barn, there's nothing going on. If you don't have any oxen in there, then there's not going to be no waste products. There's going to be no feed. There's going to be nothing. It's a clean barn. That's a person who's not doing anything. But much increase is by the strength of the ox. In other words, go get some ox. And don't be idle. Don't just let your barn stay empty. Go get some ox, put the ox in the barn, and go to work. Oh, but that'll mess up my barn, and that'll cause problems in my... That's okay, because you're going to go and clean it up. A lazy person don't have oxen in his barn because he's idle, and he don't want to have to clean up nothing. But he doesn't get anything for it either. No work gets accomplished. Proverbs 14:23 says, in all labor, whether you're plowing a field with a mule or whether you're writing a paper for an important project or whatever you're doing, he said there is profit. You can get something accomplished in your work. But the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury or poverty. You can talk about it all day long. The talk of the lips. Oh, I'm going to do this. One of these days. Have you ever heard that? One of these days, I'm going to do this or that, the other. Here's my favorite. Someday I'll. Someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do that. Someday I'll get that done. That don't get it done. The talk of the lips just tends to, you're prone for poverty. Nothing will be accomplished. The person who accomplishes something is the person who works, who goes out and does the work. Proverbs 19 verse 15 says, slothfulness or laziness casteth into a deep sleep. This idleness, you're prone to go into where you don't care about anything, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. You're not going to get anything done in life if you're lazy and if you're just sitting still. You got to go do it. Proverbs 26 verse 17 says, he that passeth by and meddleth with strife belongeth not to him, is like one that takes a dog by the ears. People who are idle are people who tend to get into other people's business. In 1 Timothy chapter number 5, verse 13, and I'm getting out of our Proverbs study, but it complements this. He says that people who are idle tend to wander around from house to house, and they become talebearers, gossipers, and they meddle in other men's matters. Folks, when we are idle, we tend to stick our noses in places it doesn't belong. And it's just like taking a dog by the ears. And if you take a dog by the ears, you can get in some trouble. That dog is going to fight you. He's going to bite you. It's a bad situation to be in. So don't meddle in other people's business. And if we're idle, we tend to end up doing just that. People who won't work, not only are they lazy and they're idle, they tend to make excuses. You know, they're going down this road of life. And this road, if you go straight, is no excuses. We're just going to do the work. And we're going to get from where we are to where we need to be by going out and doing what God has put in our hands to do. But people who make excuses get off that road. They turn left, they turn right, they go this way, they go that way, because they're making excuses. And Solomon has a lot to say about making excuses. And we picked a couple of verses to share these wise words of wisdom, Proverbs, with us. Proverbs 20, verse number 4. The lazy person will not plow. Why? Why will he not go out there and do the work? Here it is. By reason of the cold. Oh, I can't get out there today. It's too cold. Making excuses. It's too cold. Therefore shall he beg in the harvest. If he don't go out there and plant the seed and plow the land because it's too cold, then when the harvest time comes, he ain't got no harvest. Nothing happen. He didn't put the work in, therefore he didn't reap anything. And so he's going to have to beg in the harvest, and he will have nothing. Don't make excuses. Proverbs 22 verse 13 says, the lazy man saith, here's what the lazy man will say. There's a lion outside. There's a lion outside. I shall be slain in the streets. There's no lion outside. That's what a lazy person makes up stuff. Oh, I can't go out there and do my job. Why can't you do your job? Oh, there's a problem. There's a problem. So instead of going out there and dealing with the problem, I'm just going to stay in the house and I'm going to do nothing. I'm just making excuses not to go to work. A person who won't work also tends to covet. They tend to want something that somebody else has got, to the point that it makes them miserable. Listen to this one proverb that I chose. Proverbs chapter 21, verses 25 and 26. Here's what that proverb says. The desire of the slothful. The desire is the covet. You want it real bad. Well, that desire of a lazy person kills him. Oh, it kills him. Why? Here it is. For his hands refuse to labor. His hands refuse to go do the work. Now, he wants it. Oh, I want that new car. Oh, I want it so bad. I would love to have that new car, but I'm not willing to work for it. I'm not willing to do anything for it, but I want it real bad. So that covet spirit kills him. He covets greedily all day long, and he has nothing. Why? Because he's not doing anything. But yet all day long, oh, I wish I had. Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had what you got. Oh, I would be a better person if I had a house like yours, or a car like yours, or a family like yours. Oh, I wish. But I'm not willing to get up and go do anything to change my circumstances. But let me tell you who are. It's the workers. The workers, the righteous people, gives and spares not. They got plenty. They've got what they need in life, and they've got enough to share it with others. We talked about that when we dealt with wealth a couple of weeks ago. How you share and give and show mercy. It's the workers that are able to do that. The slothful people aren't able to do that. Why? Because they haven't done anything. And God cannot bless your work if you don't work. He can't bless your harvest if you don't plant the seed. Lazy people, people who don't work, not only they're lazy and they're idle and they don't want to, they make excuses and so forth, they're also prone to cheat people. I don't want to work for it, but I sure want it bad. I covet to see. So I might just steal it. Or I might take advantage of someone and get it from them. Proverbs 12, verse 11 says that's what will exactly happen. He that tills his land shall be satisfied with bread. If you work, you're going to get, God's going to bless you. But he that followeth vain persons, people who are thieves, people who are stealers, let me tell you, he's void of understanding. That person don't really understand how things are supposed to work. In fact, Proverbs 28 verse 19 says the same thing with a little twist at the end. He that tills his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that follows after vain persons, that steals and cheats, they shall have poverty enough. Cheating is not going to get you ahead in life. He goes on to say in Proverbs 13 verse 11, wealth, and we used this verse before 2 weeks ago when we talked about wealth, wealth gotten by vanity, that means dishonesty. If you get rich by cheating people, it'll be diminished. It won't last. But he that gathers labor shall increase. If you gather by labor, if you get what you got because you work for it, then you'll increase. It'll be blessed. That's just a proverb. That's just a God-given wise statement. Proverbs chapter 24, verses 30 through 34. If you'd like to read along with me, you may have your Bible open already to the Proverbs as we go through here quickly. But this verse, I'll not put it on the board, I just want to read it to you. It shares with us an example. Solomon makes this statement in 24 verses 30 through 34. He makes an observation. And it goes to show that when I am lazy, I am idle, I am prone to make excuses, I am prone to covet, I am prone to cheat, people are watching me. People are watching my life. And of course, if I'm prone to do all of this, then I'm not going to be blessed. God said so. God said you're not going to now, I'm not saying you're going to be rich. Solomon never said that. He said God's going to bless you. So if God's given me some work to do and I don't do my work, then people are going to notice that because I'm not getting the harvest. I'm not getting the results that God wants in my life. But if I do go out and do whatever it is God says, if it's just a cup of cold water in His name given, then people notice that. And people see that, and they see the value that it adds to my life. I'm an example to folks. And Solomon said, I just witnessed that. I just look at folks. Here's what he says beginning in verse 30. I went by the field of the slothful, the lazy guy. I just happened to walk by the field. Now, we're going to use that as life. I just watched the life of David Conley. I was just watching his life. I was watching what he does, what he says, how he acts. And by the vineyard of the man that's void of understanding. Solomon said, I just looked at his field and I looked at his vineyard, and he's a lazy man and he's a man that don't understand. And let me tell you what I saw. Lo, it was all grown over with thorns. It's a pretty vineyard, pretty field, but it's all grown up. Had a lot of thorns in it. And nettles had covered the face thereof. Just the whole land was just covered with weeds and thorns and bushes. And the stone wall, that means the fence that's supposed to be fencing in the vineyard to protect the grapes from the animals and so forth and the thieves. Well, that stone wall was broken down. It was the fence was torn down. See that old fence torn down? And that old field just grown over with weeds and thorns and bushes. Someone says, then I saw. And I considered it. I thought about it. And I considered it well. I looked upon it and I received instruction. It taught me a lesson. And here's the lesson. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. We just referred to that a while ago. But that's what led up to it. People are looking at David Conley, and they're saying, I see his life, and I see the life that God has blessed him with. But it's all grown over. He's not accomplishing anything. His fences are all torn down in his life. There's hedges that stay in his way all the time. And I notice that he's lazy. And I notice that he's idle. And I notice that he covets everything. And he wants what other people's got. If he's not willing to work for it, he wants to stay in bed all day long. Or if not in bed, just doing activities that's not profitable for what God's put him on earth to do. I notice that he cheats people. And I notice, and I've learned, that he can't add value to my life if he can't add value to his own life. So what am I doing in this earthly life? But what am I doing in my spiritual life? What about my work for Jesus? Somebody says, oh, he ain't preaching to me today because I work. I get up before sun up and I work past sundown and I sweat my brow and I'm out there and I'm plugging away. Why? Want to get rich? Well, is that what God's got you on earth to do? Oh, I do it all so that I can make a name for myself. Is that what God's got you on earth to do? Is that the work God has put before you? Oh, I do it because I just enjoy it. Is that why God's got you on earth? It's just to have fun and enjoy? You know, what is it that God's got you on earth to do? He's got everyone on earth to do something for the kingdom of God. So yes, I work hard, and yes, I do a lot of stuff. But what about my work for Jesus? What am I doing in the kingdom, in the vineyard? We sing that song, I will work, I will work. And am I working? Or am I a little lazy about that? Am I just idle? I'm not going to do anything. It will lead me to be prone to do other things that's not going to lead value to my life. If I'm not willing to even take the first step, I'm just going to sit here with my hands in my armpits. And the invitation song's going to be sung. And I know that I haven't accomplished anything for Jesus. And I know that I'm not a Christian. I know I've never been baptized into Christ. And yeah, okay, I have been baptized into Christ. Sure have. But I've just been sitting idly, watching everybody else work. The sign-up sheets are getting full of names, but they're the same names all the time. The work that's got to be done is being done by everybody else, but David Conley. I'm not doing it. Folks are watching. And folks are seeing your field. And they're seeing your fences broken down. And they're seeing your life all growed up with weeds, spiritually speaking. And they're receiving instruction. And they're saying, if you're not adding value to your own spiritual life, then how can you add value to mine? A slothful person is ashamed. Vinegar to the teeth, smoke to the eyes. Let's not be ashamed to God. Let's respond. Either be baptized or to ask God to forgive you of a broken down fence and a growed up life. Why don't you come while together we stand and sing?